No! No! Why? Hello Terrarians, YouTubers, and people on the internet. I apparently need to make this video since I googled it and it's nowhere, but I don't even know why I asked the question because I actually just know exactly which one is better. I don't even really need to do much other than sit here and keep testing my farm while I discuss this with you. In terms of warding and menacing, and in terms of defensive items in general, the better choice actually depends on, first of all, your playstyle, and second of all, what you're actually trying to defeat. The first thing that is important to note is the HP of what you're trying to kill, as well as the damage that you are dealing. If you're just killing everything in one shot anyway, then you're probably fine just going to warding, because that thing isn't going to be hitting you very much because you're killing it instantly. A situation where both of you are killing each other in one hit and it doesn't really matter what you do defense-wise, then you may as well get more offense. But if offense doesn't really matter either, this is like only a situation that's important in like 1v1s in player kind of games. Like, if you're both going to one-shot each other regardless of defense and regardless of offense, then mobility is actually probably the better thing. Or depending what you're one-shotting people with, if you're using Meow Mirror, then melee speed would be better. Or if you're using something like the Last Prism, I don't think you can even augment the speed of that. Something like that, you don't really need menacing or any other prefixes. You pretty much only need like something that reduces mana cost on something like that. But other than that niche situation, something that affects all of us in every single playthrough we ever do, what is better, menacing or warding? It depends on what you're fighting and at what part in the game you're in. If you have armor that is not necessarily above what you're fighting, like, to give you an idea what I mean, the Pumpkin Moon was meant for people who have between hollowed armor and glorified armor, around there. So if you go into the Pumpkin Moon with something that is from the solar, or like not the solar fragment or pillar in general, but like the celestial pillars. If you go with celestial pillar armor and fight the Pumpkin Moon, you're gonna do way better than what was originally intended in that event, which is probably why they are reluctant to make any more powerful items, because you already completely make things in the game irrelevant with the stuff they've added in 1.3, so they probably don't want to add more. So take a situation like that where there's two different, like massively, extremely different paths you can take depending on where you're at. If you have what is prepared for that event, like if you have hollowed or glorified armor and you're fighting the Pumpkin Moon, then warding is better because you're doing less damage. And your armor is not giving as much defense. So you'll have way less defense than if you would be destroying it completely with celestial armors. So you're going to need more defense from other sources. Unless you're just trying to brute force it, I guess. But if you get to the 15th wave and all those pumpkins spawn, you're going to get completely hit over and over and over again. At that point, you may as well try to kill things faster so that you can kill them and get all the hearts to drop. That will sustain that fight for you. But in my opinion, the plus whatever damage it is, 6 times 4, 24% damage. Yes, in my opinion, taking 12 less damage from something that kills you in about 8 hits or so, that's best case scenario. A lot of the stuff does more damage than that. If you're going to take 8 hits and die, I would think that warding would be much better for you, because something that kills you over a lot of hits is more affected by warding than something that kills you in 2 hits. Like, obviously 24 defense taking 12 less damage won't matter if you die. If you take 250 damage twice and die, taking 12 less damage means you take 1 more hit. Something like that would be massive. But if it's like something that's killing you in 3 hits and it's not by an exact number, which is mostly the case, you're not going to need warding in that particular instance, because warding is more useful for situations where you're taking a lot of different hits. that are all adding up and killing you. So a lot of small enemies that you're going to be facing 90% of the time in Terraria, that's the situations warding is best for, and for the most part, that is why I believe warding is the superior, most of the time, prefix over menacing. However, there are some situations, of course, there's that 10% of the time when you're fighting bosses or events when menacing is more valuable. And if you get late enough in the game where you have stuff like Meowmere or the SDMG, or I'm not sure what other, I forget what the arrows or the bow for the Vortex Pillar is called, Phantasm or something, or if you have Solar Eruption or any of these crazy late game items, then menacing becomes Gold Worm. What? Where's the Gold Worm? Gold Worm, where is it? No, you bastard! My dragon just derailed my, Oh yes, I was talking about the very powerful endgame items. The situations where menacing is more valuable than warding would be the situations where you have items that have very large numbers. So, those uninitiated, those who fell asleep in math class like I did, percentages are more valuable if they're being applied to larger base numbers. What I mean by that is 5% of 5 is like a very small fraction. It doesn't round up into anything massive. So if you have something that does 5 damage, like a wooden hammer or something, and it has a 5% damage on it, it'll still do 5 damage. But if you have something that does 100 damage and it has a 5% multiplier on it, then it will do 105 damage. So that small fraction of a larger number will actually mean something. It will add up to slightly more damage. And when does slightly more damage matter? In the situations where you're killing something in more than one hit, more than 2 hits, I'd say around 4 hits. With something that does a lot of damage, menacing becomes more valuable. However, if there's a lot of things getting pot shots on you, then it's definitely still more valuable to have warding. It's like, it all depends on how many things you're getting hit by. If you're getting hit a lot, then obviously doing more damage doesn't mean as much. This obviously this raises the question of like something that comes up in some MOBAs. Like there's a game called League of Legends, the worst game I've ever played, but still works for this example. There are some characters in that game where it is more valuable to only buy offense and become glass cannon, while there are some characters where it's better to only buy defense and outlast the opponent and do more damage that way. So it becomes a situation of, in which situations in Terraria is it more valuable to become glass cannon and outdamage your opponent through sheer power, or is it more valuable to get more defense and outlast your opponent through sheer defense? You actually, so like, the situations where you are taking more damage, it doesn't really matter if you have warding. Those numbers will not be reduced by warding as effectively as your damage will be increased by menacing. While in the situations where you're getting hit by a lot of small numbers, then warding becomes more valuable, which is most of the time. Things don't usually kill you in only a few hits. There are only a few attacks in all of Terraria which do about a third of your HP once you have 500 health and 113 armor, which it is nighttime, so put that around 110 actually. And you can lower this even further by about 24 to about 90 if you don't have warding. There are only a few things that do enough damage to kill you in 3 hits. There's the Red Devil, Turtles when they use their tackling attack, and UFO's Beam, Moonlord's Death Ray from his head. Crawlipedes kill you in 3 hits, I'm pretty sure. They do about 110 damage. And these endgame items really make warding less valuable, but still not to the point where you should not take it, I think, because 30% reduced damage is massive for getting rid of these big numbers. While you can also reduce it small numbers, not that large numbers. Large numbers aren't, like, you don't do shit to large numbers if you have a lot of small numbers reducing it. But percentages, I don't mean to disrespect your intelligence, but I'm just going to restate it for so everyone gets it. Large numbers are impacted by percentages, while small numbers, like the small +4 defense from warding, are more effective on small numbers. Like, lava does one, like, let's get rid of this real quick. Lava does 1 damage with solar armor on. And getting rid of all of these, I only lose 6 defense from the actual items. Most of this is all defense from warding. So now I take 14 damage. That is a lot more damage. And actually, it's more like 21, because get rid of that the bonus from solar armor. That is not where that was. So things like lava, having warding is essential. If you're going to be diving into hell and mining your world, and you're too lazy to make obsidian potions, definitely get warding. You will take 1 damage from lava. Pretty much every common enemy in all of Terraria, that is not the rare exception, like the outlier that's doing 200 damage to you, warding will be good for them. Bosses that you're killing in an instant with your overpowered stuff, like if you summon Eye Cthulhu and kill it with like 5 Meowmere strikes, I guess it's more like 10 or 12, and it just dies instantly, warding won't do anything to that. Warding isn't going to matter when you're just killing something instantly. Menacing is going to be better for the situations like that, where you are already destroying something, and you may as well just speed it up. You may as well just kill it faster. And the other situations where warding become more useful are the drawn-out battles where you're fighting something like the Moon Lord, which has over 100,000 collective hit points. You're going to be fighting this thing for a long time. And something like Meowmere, you're not going to hit it as effectively with that, so it's better to use like the Star Wrath or something like the Solar Eruption from cover. Something like that, like the Moon Lord, which you can't really dodge effectively most of the time. You can hide behind walls to dodge the beams, but a lot of its attacks home in on you and are so widespread, you're going to need Rod of Discord to actually be able to dodge most of these. You're going to get hit. Fights like that where you take a lot of hits, warding is better for reducing the collective damage of all those hits. But if you're endgame and you're fighting Plantera, and you can just sit here with Solar Eruption and literally kill it without even needing a health potion in expert mode, something like that, Menacing is better. Also, for Vampiric Knives' sake, you heal more based on the damage you do, and the damage for Vampiric Knives could be increased like 15, I think, if you have more offensive items than what I have. Like, you could switch this Greedy Ring out, and you could switch the wings out if you're insane. Or that's another video, definitely, is the amount of like the best accessories you can equip for most situations. That's definitely its own video. So to answer the question again, because I realize I'm not the best at explaining things, and I'm not the best at putting my thoughts together into a cohesive, understandable script. Also, side note, I'm terrible at reading scripts. I can never write a script. I'm all over the place. That's who I am. Situations where you're taking hits that kill you in 3 hits, and warding won't do anything to those. You may as well have Menacing for the situations like that where you're taking a lot of big hits and you're dying in only a few hits. Situations where you're fighting smaller enemies, which do about anywhere from 10 to like 90 damage, or about around 80 damage, I'd say, is the cutoff point. It's like, yeah, like 6 hits. It's just mathematically better. You take an extra hit. An extra second can make the difference. Your health potion could come up. You could dash and dodge the attack. You could Rod of Discord away. You could literally do... A second leaves so much opportunity for anything, and if all warding did was give you an extra second to think, that's much more valuable than killing something or doing a little bit more damage to something that still has 10,000 health left. Warding is definitely better in the situation where you are taking a lot of smaller hits and you're going to need to survive for longer through this abuse. That minus 12 you get from having 24 defense, or minus 10 if you're in normal Terraria and it's only giving you it's giving you 1 less accessory slot. That 10 less damage you're taking will do a lot in a longer fight. And situations where Menacing is better, in shorter fights where you're already destroying something and you just want to destroy it faster. And of course there are very niche situations where killing something faster with more damage is more effective than taking more hits and receiving less damage from those hits. There are just situations that are so small that it would take forever to go over all, like, there's probably thousands. The one that comes to mind is the Pumpkin Moon, where in later waves, if you do more damage, you actually get tankier because you can kill enemies faster. And every time you kill a pumpkin or a morning wood, you get a lot of hearts. So that's like one of the only situations I can think of off the top of my head where having menacing while taking a lot of damage might be better. But I also die to that a lot, even with all warding. But maybe that's because I'm not doing enough damage to kill them by the time I die. Maybe the fact that I'm not doing enough damage is the thing that's holding me back. It's like hard to tell. You know what I mean? Like, it's like playing an assassin role in any game. If you try to play defensive on that guy, you're gonna do less damage and you're gonna die because you die instantly. While if you were doing more damage, then they wouldn't be able to kill you instantly because you killed them first. You got the hit out. You got hits on them that did more damage. That's pretty much the answer to the question. Warding is better for a bunch of separate hits, while menacing is better for the situations where, well, I'm gonna die anyway, so I may as well get more use out of my life when you are incredibly overpowered and already killing something fast as hell. Like, you may as well just kill it faster and save yourself. You'll take less damage because the thing hitting you will be dead faster. So I definitely say warding is more applicable than menacing. There are a lot of situations where menacing is not as useful, or it's just a convenient, it's a leisurely thing. I was saying 10% of the time you need menacing and 90% you need warding, but I'd say it's closer to like 70% and 30%. It's not quite as big, but it's like, it's definitely a bigger percent than 10% that you need menacing. And need isn't the right word. Really what it is 20% of the time menacing is convenient to have, and 10% of that 30% is you need menacing. Most of the time warding is better. Alright, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.